This rather strange week has, I suppose, been a fitting end to the incredibly strange year that we've all just lived through. Trump threw the entire coronavirus relief effort into total chaos when he threatened to veto the bill that his own administration had negotiated. Now, on the one hand, he's now actually put $2,000 checks in play, which is obviously a very good thing. On the other hand, he could have done it a lot sooner and with a lot more chance of success without forcing unemployment to lapse and lives to be thrown into chaos. And what's more, we all know that he only really bothered to stumble towards the right position because he's mad that Mitch wouldn't humor his Stop the Steal nonsense. At the same time, he's made the right move on the National Defense Authorization Act, but again, kind of for the wrong reasons. Actually, he's been all over the map with his stated reasons. He's complained about Confederate named bases being renamed, the Section 230 Internet law, and China, among other things, but not really about the issue that should be objected to, which is the endless amounts of money poured into our endless wars and imperialism. Nevertheless, these two issues, one economic populist and one dealing with the reduction of the national security state, they provide a kind of window into the Trump administration that might have been if he actually believed in anything and governed according to the principles he campaigned on, rather than on his day-to-day emotional weather and personal grievance meter. Now, when Trump was elected, I felt all the horrified emotions that you might expect of someone of my political persuasion, especially given that even though I'd been a Bernie supporter, I was much more attached to the Democratic Party and bought into a lot more of their nonsense at that point than I do now. Of course, the most likely outcome, that Trump would govern based on his whim of the day and score settling, was already easily predictable. But there was another possibility that did exist. That since he didn't come up through the Republican Party apparatus or have a really fixed ideology, he'd be just as likely to trash Republicans as Democrats, and that rather than passing the Heritage Foundation's libertarian wish list, he might actually do what was popular on the economy and also in ending the endless wars simply as a matter of juicing his own personal approval ratings. At the time, I viewed this possibility with a kind of terror. I knew there was some possibility that he would actually become wildly popular and impossible to defeat if he played his cards right. Now I view the fact that he didn't choose this course as a profound tragedy, because the truth is that Trump had it all there for him. His unique hold on the base of the Republican Party gave him an insanely potent weapon if he had ever chosen to use it. From the jump, instead of rolling out a bunch of executive orders that were as outrageous as they were incompetent and capitulating to Paul Ryan's corporate tax cut fantasies, he could have instead chosen to open up the purse strings. He could have flooded every district in America with new union infrastructure jobs. He could have worked with the anti-war Democrats to fight the endless war crowd. He could have done something other than complain about tech censorship by working with the burgeoning bipartisan coalition that is truly concerned about tech power. In the pandemic, he could have led the charge on monthly stimulus checks and used emergency powers to give everyone Medicare. All of these items would be much more difficult for a Democratic president to accomplish because they would face lockstep GOP opposition. Just as Bill Clinton was able to accomplish conservative priorities that Republicans couldn't dream of, things like ending welfare, Trump could have accomplished economic progressive priorities that no Democrat could dream of. Just look at the fact that with the worst strategy ever and barely even trying, he managed to get a decent chunk of the GOP to go along with something they would never have gone along with before: $2,000 direct checks. He changed the conversation on trade in the GOP and made space for more dissenters on militarism. Yes, these final days of the Trump administration actually provide a tantalizing glimpse of what could have been all along. Now, even in this very rosy scenario, and never to be ultimately, he would have done lots of terrible things that I hated and that his base loved. Aggressive and cruel immigration enforcement actions, the Muslim ban, attacks on LGBTQ rights. And that's, of course, exactly why I felt such trepidation about Trump pursuing an actually successful presidency. Because I think he could have done all his culture war crap and more and had a massively high approval rating, guaranteed re-election, and forced a much more significant realignment if he had been more heterodox, less beholden to GOP economic orthodoxy, and less of a handmaiden to the plutocrat class. So finally, here at the very end of his presidency, through sheer luck of the gods of grievance, we arrive at the long-awaited moment when Trump and Bernie actually share the same goal of direct relief to working Americans. And if checks go out, listen, I will be the first to give him credit. But it also illuminates a true Trump tragedy, which is just how much good he could have done at a time when it was desperately needed, if he had actually cared to do so. Instead, he consistently chose the plutocrats over the people. We'll have more rising for you after this.